Hi class, this video is to help you work through topic 3 DQ2 Solving Algebraically. So in our topic 3 DQ2, we are taking a situation, we are going to be investing money. We are looking at how that money would save, how it would compile with simple interest. And then your goal is to determine a certain principal and a certain rate to reach an expected value after 10 years. When you're doing this problem, there are two different methods you can follow. You can use guess and check. This could take you some time. The other method you can use is solving algebraically, which is the one I'm going to kind of go through right now. If you do choose to do guess and check, make sure for the principal you are going all the way to 2 decimal places. So you'll need to be as specific to the cent on that one. And then the rate, you're going to end up needing about, I think it's 5 or 6 significant figures. So the rate has a pretty substantive decimal place that you need to be able to get that money exactly. Okay, so an alternative to guess and check is solving algebraically, and that's kind of what we're going to go through in this video. I'm going to go through how to solve for the principal. I'll go through how to solve for the rate, and then I will leave you guys to do it algebraically on your own. And I'm going to go ahead and substitute in some different numbers for this problem. I'm not going to use the same numbers from our DQ, just because I don't want to give away the answers right away. Okay, so with our problem, we are working with simple interest. So we have our simple interest formula. I'm going to write it over here to the right and kind of keep it in our bank to have. So we have A is equal to P times 1 plus RT. A is our future amount. P is our principal. R is the rate. And T is time. Time is always given in years, so keep that in mind. So if you're given 3 months, you would need to adjust that to make it into years. Okay, so let's set up a scenario. So I need to have $20,000 in an account after 4 years. I've looked up online what kind of rates I can get, and I can do this with a 6% rate. Okay, so what I've done is I've made up a problem. I want to have $20,000 in the account. I want this to happen after 4 years. And I looked up a rate for my bank, and I can have a rate of 6%. That rate is made up. Just keep that in mind. I did make that up. That may not be the rate. Typically, they're not going to be that high. Okay, so I'm going to set this up. I'm solving for P. I do not know P. That is what I want to find. So I'm going to set this up. I'm going to substitute in my values into my equation. So I would have my A is 20,000. I have my equals, my P. We don't know the P, so I will leave it as a variable. And then 1 plus my rate. My rate, I always want to write as a decimal, 0.06 times my time, which is 4. When you're working through these financial problems, if you can do the calculations and not have to round, you can do that. If you do the calculations and it gives you a very long decimal that you would end up having to round, do not do the calculations as you go. We are only rounding at the very, very end of this problem. Okay, so when I do this problem, first thing I would start with is I'd look inside my parentheses and I would see I need to do some order of operations. I need to simplify this parentheses on the right-hand side of the formula. So when you're solving, you should always simplify the left and the right-hand side of the formula as much as possible and then start moving stuff across your equal sign. Okay, so I start with what's inside the parentheses. I do my order of operations, so 0.06 times 4. On my calculator, this gives me 0.24 exactly. So see, I'm not rounding. I don't have to worry about rounding. It is exactly 0.24 on my calculator. So I'll go ahead and write that in. I'm going to do this step by step. So if you wanted to group it together and do what's inside that parentheses all in one, you could do that as well. 0.24. Let me erase my extra decimal place. All right, and then we're going to continue simplifying what's inside these parentheses. So order of operations says we add now. And again, at this point, we have not done any rounding. I haven't rounded this. This is exact values. Do not round. Do not round as you go. Only round when you get to the very end. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right, so now I get to this point. I have 20,000 equals P times 1.24. The P and the 1.24 are being multiplied. So to undo multiplication, we have to divide. Before I divide, I'm going to go ahead and rewrite this in a way that's a little more familiar to help you guys. So P times 1.24, I could write this as 1.24P. That is another way to rewrite it because multiplication is commutative. So you can rearrange the values when you multiply. So I'm allowed to move that 1.24 in front of the P. This is the more common way to write it. So this is why I did rephrase it or rearrange it like this, just to make it more familiar if you haven't seen it in the other way before. Okay, so then we have 1.24 times p. That's a multiplication. So undo multiplication, we are going to divide. So then I know my final value p will be this 20,000 divided by 1.24. I plug that in my calculator. And I get $16,129.03. This point, this is my final answer. This is where I rounded. I didn't round anywhere else. I rounded in my final answer down here. Okay, so if I wanted to have $20,000 in a saving account after 4 years with 6% interest, I would need to invest $16,129.03 at simple interest to make this happen. So it's a large amount of money, but that would grow to $20,000 after 4 years with that rate and simple interest. Okay, so that goes through kind of how to find the principal. Now let's do a different scenario. Let's try to find our rate. Okay, so we're going to be using the same formula, but this time instead of solving for P, we're going to solve for R. So it's a little bit different. You're still going to follow the same general math steps that you would do. All right, so let me get a new page. I'll rewrite our formula to have it in our bank. A is equal to P times 1 plus RT. A is the future amount. P is principal, the amount we start with. R is rate. T is time. Time in years. Okay, so now this time, let's say I want to have $20,000. I want to have it again after 4 years. But this time I'm thinking I don't have $16,000. So let's say this time I have $10,000 to invest. So I have $10,000. I want to invest it for 4 years. I want to get to $20,000. That's my goal. I need to figure out what rate is going to get me there. Okay, so this is similar to the second part of our DQ. So let me start by substituting all these values into our equation. So I have my A, which is our 20,000, equal to my P, which is 10,000. And then open parentheses, 1 plus my rate, I do not know, times 4. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to rewrite this right-hand side so it looks a little prettier. So I'm going to rewrite this as 4R instead of R times 4. Okay, so now I go through the process of solving. My left and my right-hand side, those are as simplified as possible. On the left-hand side, there's just one number. The right-hand side, I could distribute, but we don't want to distribute. It's going to cause more work for us. That is one method to do this. You can distribute that 10,000 and go from there. But I am going to go ahead and do it a different way where I start by dividing by the 10,000. Okay, so both left hand, right hand side are simplified. So now I'm going to start moving everything away from that R. And I'm undoing my order of operations. So I'm going to start by removing everything outside of the parentheses. So this 10,000 is being multiplied by the parentheses. So I will divide. When I do the division on the left-hand side, if you plug it in your calculator, if you do it in your head, 2,000 divided by 10,000 gives us a whole number 2. There's no rounding going on there. So I can go ahead and copy down that 2 and do the division. And then this is equal to, this is 2 equals 1 plus 4R. I divided that 10,000. So on the right-hand side, these 10,000s divided out. They divide out to 1. They're gone. And then on the left-hand side, we are left with 2. So now we keep moving through the process. We need to get R by itself. So to do that, I'm going to start by moving everything that's not multiplied by R first and then deal with the 4. So I'm going to subtract the 1. The 1 is being added to the 4R. So to undo addition, we subtract. 1 minus 1 becomes 0. So those will cancel out, which is what we wanted. That was the goal. And then we have 1 is equal to 4R. Now I have 4R. I've moved everything else over. So now I can move the R. The R is being, or sorry, not move the R, move the 4. Want to leave the R by itself. The 4 is being multiplied by R, so I will divide by the 4 to undo the multiplication. So then this gives me a rate of 1/4. And then if you plug that in your calculator, you get the approximation. So 1 divided by 4, which gives us 0.25. And then if we convert that into a percent, you multiply it by that 100, you move the decimal place 2. It gives us 25%. So if I'm investing in simple interest, I want my money to double after 4 years, I would need to invest at a rate of 25%. 25%. All right, I hope this helps show you guys kind of how to solve algebraically. I'm not going to go through the variables. I will leave that to you guys if you choose to do that. But this is one method to solve that topic 3 DQ2 that is not guess and check.